Today we will be taking a look at the Bachmann Spectrum N-Scale DCC 70-ton diesel-electric locomotive. This locomotive was built by GE around 1942 to 1955. This locomotive has no sound. The MSRP of this locomotive is $149. The paint on this locomotive are nice and clean and crisp around the entire locomotive. The most important part is the separation line between the black and the yellow paint are done very nicely. Also, the caution striping is done very nicely, and the lines on the striping are very clean and crisp. Same with the striping on the pilot. The back of the locomotive has a nice molded-on step. They did such a good job with that molded-on step, it looks almost separately applied. I almost got fooled by it. There are nice separately applied, nice thin handrails, and there's also a nice thin uncoupling lever on the back of the locomotive. Both the front and the rear couplers on this locomotive are Bachmann couplers. Both couplers are in height according to the coupler height gauge, and all wheels are in gauge according to the NMRA standards gauge. The handrails on this locomotive are very thin, and they did a very good job with the handrails. There's also a uncoupling lever on the front of the locomotive as well. There is nicely done separately applied exhaust and horn near the cab of the locomotive. You may be able to see it, but there is very small lettering near the walkway and near the door. There's also one down here near the front of the locomotive. I can read all of them. This one here says fire extinguisher. That one there says warning 600 volts, and that one says emergency shutoff. I cannot find a builder's plate on this locomotive, but there is a nicely done GE logo near the stirrup steps by the cab. There is both a front and rear headlight on this locomotive. The headlights are dimmable. Bachmann has programmed the dimmable headlight to be function number 1. So let me demonstrate this to you. This locomotive is a very smooth runner, and I'm happy about that because this is going to be a switcher locomotive, so I'm happy it's a smooth runner. So I'm going to show you it running. So that there is speed step 1. Now this locomotive also goes fairly quickly. Now its acceleration speed's quite fast, but you can change that in the CV settings if you do not like its acceleration and deceleration speed. Now I know some switching locomotives you have to ram the locomotive into the car to get the coupler to engage. I'm happy to report with this locomotive you do not have to run the locomotive into the cars at 20 miles per hour. Speed step 1 will get the coupler to engage with the car just fine, and I really like that because a lot of locomotives are not good at doing that. So I'm not going to stop this video once. So, as you may be able to see, this locomotive is a very nice switcher. But, how does it run on the main line? Sometimes these locomotives were MU'd to another locomotive, and they were ran on the main line. So, sometimes these switchers were connected to a GP, a general purpose locomotive of some kind, and then they were run on the main line. Just as, like a B unit, for example. So, how do these things run on the main line? Well, let's show you. So there's only two things about this locomotive I don't like, and both of them have to do with sound. So due to strict international electronic emissions regulations, Bachmann locomotives come with RF chokes, which are basically capacitors. And what they're doing is they're to reduce interference with radio and television signals. Now, I do not like that because that produces a little bit of a high-pitched noise, kind of, and you can hear it if you don't have anything else running on the layout. And that may be because there's a brushless motor in there, I don't know. But I'll put the microphone up there so you can hear it, and hopefully you can hear it. But it's not a huge problem, and if those two little sounds weren't there, this would be an absolutely perfect locomotive. So that noise that you just heard is not a deal breaker for me, but this is a review for you, not me. So I had to bring it up just so you would know. It's not an annoying sound, you can barely hear it, and with sound running on the layout, even on the other side of the layout, you can't hear it. So it's definitely not a deal breaker, so don't think it's a bad locomotive just because it has that sound. You've now seen the locomotive run. I'm going to talk some more about the locomotive. So this is the underside of the locomotive. You can see this locomotive has all-wheel pickup. It also has all-wheel drive. If you see this locomotive in your local hobby store or even online, I highly recommend you purchase this locomotive. This locomotive is a really smooth runner. It's great for switching, and if you need to do any switching on your layout, this will do the task. The only drawbacks I see with this locomotive are the possibilities of you getting annoyed with the sound that it makes. And if you stare at the locomotive below track level, you can just barely see the gears. But for me personally, that's not a problem. So, thank you for watching and have a great day.